Welcome back. This show explores the possibility of past lives as we ask, have we been here before? On today's show, we've seen singer and TV presenter Cheryl Baker undergo a regression session where she described the life of East End Joe, a carpenter based in Victorian London.
Mary's ill.
Do you know what she's ill with?
TB.
In a moment, I'll be joined by Cheryl as I find out what she's made of the whole experience. What about you? Are you convinced, or are you still baffled by the whole idea? Here's what the experts have to say.
People are often very careful to produce plausible information during past life regression. Subconsciously, they're very careful not to say things which will contradict other things they've already said.
The vast majority of material that comes out is not true. But the stories that you hear and that people pass on are the little snippets that do turn out to be true. When you really compare this massive, massive bulk of untrue things, it's a tiny, tiny little bit that turn out to be right.
If a past life has characteristics that are similar to a current life, the chances are that means that there are some lessons there to be learnt, they're karmic lessons being carried over. It's no coincidence that there will be a relationship between the two.
Well, there were certainly a lot of intriguing details in Cheryl's regression, but did any of them actually check out? Time to reveal the evidence from our historian sleuth and expert of the archives, Jules Hudson.
Cheryl's story takes us back 150 years to the Victorian era, and the life of Joe, a carpenter, lived out here in Hackney, in East London. It's a wonderful story full of wonderful details about his home and working life, and it's stuffed full of the most amazing clues for us to investigate.
And how old do you sense yourself to be?
17.
Do you know what year it is?
1856.
These details put Joe's birth in the year 1839, and he was born somewhere in the East End. Well, I've tracked down a birth certificate for December 1838 for a Joseph Kelly born in Bethnal Green. It's pretty intriguing, and it's only just a few months out. Could this be Cheryl's Joe? It's possible, but what about the street names?
What's the name of the place or the town where you live?
Hackney. Green Street.
Well, Hackney is certainly a famous London borough, but what about Green Street? Well, I've had a good look around, I've had a good trawl through the old map. Now, I can't find any in Hackney itself, but I have found one in nearby Newham, so it's not looking too bad. We might have a street, we might even have a birth certificate. But what do we know about Joe's early life?
What things do you make as a carpenter?
Chairs.
I think this is pretty accurate. Furniture making was a booming industry in the mid-19th century, and remarkably, Shoreditch in Hackney Borough was the very centre of the London furniture trade. By 1861, nearly a third of all London furniture makers were in the East End. It's intriguing stuff, but what's up next?
I'm marrying Mary.
And where are you getting married?
St James the Less. In Hackney.
What a fantastic discovery. Now, this is St James the Less Church in Bethnal Green in East London. It's certainly in the right part of town that Joe describes, but as you can see, most of it looks pretty modern. But that tower is Victorian. Now, the thing is, I can't tell you when exactly during the Victorian period it was built. Was it built when Joe was around? I'm not sure. I'll have to check the archives on it, but for me, it is startling evidence. And there's plenty more where that came from.
Mary's ill.
Do you know what she's ill with?
TB.
Have other people got this as well, or have other people died in your community?
Lots.
TB was shorthand for tuberculosis, otherwise known at the time as the consumption, and it was one of the biggest killers in Victorian England. It was so bad that this article from the 1844 Illustrated News says that nearly a fifth of all adult deaths came from this terrible disease. So all that is pretty spot on, but the next clue takes us into Joe's later life.
What did you do with your life apart from working?
Went to the pub. Played cards. Brag.
Where did you play the card games?
Rose and Crown.
Now, of course, there is a card game called Brag. It's an early form of poker played with 4 to 8 people. And even more striking is that it was a favourite of the working classes in the 19th century. So, yet another detail which fits. But what about that pub Cheryl mentioned? The Rose and Crown, hardly an uncommon name for a pub, and a quick trawl through the archives here in Hackney has told me there are at least 40 in London alone. Now, I couldn't find one in Hackney itself, but there were at least half a dozen in the East End, so maybe one of those was Joe's local. We just can't tell for sure, but I did make one other startling discovery. Remember that church? And here it is, an engraving of St James the Less Church in Bethnal Green in 1844. Exactly the right date for Joe to have got married here. Now, it looks a bit different now because most of it was bombed during the war, but for me it's fantastic evidence from our regression. And if you think that was good, it just gets even better.
Where was the workshop or the warehouse that you worked in to make the chairs?
Curtain Road.
Which area was Curtain Road in?
Shoreditch.
Well, I've had a look at the street directory for 1877, and what it does is it lists all the shops and businesses that were down here on Curtain Road in Shoreditch. And when I look down the list at number 75, what do I find? A chair maker. Now, how did Cheryl know that?
Now, I know that you are very sceptical, and that's perfectly okay.
Okay.
But having seen that, do you feel any differently?
Yes. There were things that surprised me, and things that I didn't remember saying as well. But I don't remember talking about the fact that there were so many people that suffered from TB at the time, so that took me by surprise. And the fact that there was a chair makers in Curtain Road, I didn't know that.
Which, if the eagle-eyed amongst everybody watching will have seen that where we were pointing out that John Banks at number 75, the chair maker, strange enough, in the same building, you said you worked for Mr. Green, in the same building, number 75, also number 77 to 79 and 96, were Green, Wood and Sons. You know, it's just one of those little things. It's on there. You can have a look at that. So there's Greenwood and Sons. There's the birth certificate for your Joseph.
No.
So, you know, are we getting any further to some sort of part of your mind that may think, hang on a minute, what's this all about?
I don't know. I mean, the trouble is I am a sceptic. In my life, I'm a sceptic. You know, if I don't see concrete evidence about something, then I don't disregard it. I don't think it's wrong, but I do wonder, and I still wonder whether Andrea was just leading me into my own story. Because I come from East London. So these might be memories that my mum's told me about. It might be things that I've read. It might be historical facts that I've gone through at school. And they're just coming out in my little storytelling. And it might just be coincidence that, you know, this. Or it might be right. I don't know. Does it
seem strange that that particular part of the East End would have been at that time the centre for furniture making?
No, I knew that there was furniture made in the East End, and there was also shoes, because my dad was a shoemaker, and I was very aware of that.
What about the church, St James the Less Church, that at that time? Did you know that church existed?
Yes.
You've heard of that church?
Yes.
So you knew
and I know
one.
when I saw the picture, I knew that it was bombed in the war. So, you know, maybe there was a Joe that married Mary and he did get married in that church, or maybe it was just me remembering a church that I knew about.
It has made you laugh, hasn't it, the fact that you had a Joseph who married a Mary who happened to be a carpenter?
I know. I didn't think about it until afterwards.
Did you get a surprise when you went back as a bloke?
You know, the funny feeling was that although I was a man, in the regression, I didn't feel sexual at all. Although I knew I was a man, it didn't feel any different. You know, I didn't feel like I'm a man, so I've got a deep voice, or anything else come to that. I just felt that I was a bloke called Joe, married to this woman called Mary, but it was like an asexual feeling, you know. And do you think there's sort of any comfort to be had out of what you went through in that chair? I have evidence of my own to believe that there is an afterlife, because I know my dad came to me, and it was a physical thing. It really happened. So after he passed away, about 6 weeks after he passed away. I danced with him. And I know I did, even though I was laying in bed, I know it happened. And I could feel him. And we danced. He took me in his arms and we danced. And it was the most fantastic feeling. And I could feel it from the tip of my head to my feet. And I was tingling and my heart was pounding. It was absolutely wonderful. It was not scary. It was fantastic.
And it's never happened since, there's not...
No, and I really want it to.
Yeah.
I just think that my dad had something to contact me for.
No,
You know, there was
dance.
something that he left unfinished and he wanted to do it. That's what I believe, anyway.
And it made you feel good.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the minute. You've heard what Cheryl thinks, but what do you make of it all? Was she really seeing a past life, or was it something else? Here's what the experts think.
In Cheryl's regression, she is a man. She's cast herself as a man. And I think a lot of women are fascinated by what it's like to take on the male role. And it could just be that in her own life, Cheryl does take on quite a lot of, if you like, masculine qualities and is comfortable with that. So no surprise at all that in her regression, she would be Joe, who's a bloke.
Now, it's not too surprising that Cheryl actually comes up with specific names within the kind of manufacturing area of the East End, because, in fact, her father was a shoemaker, and so she would know those areas, she would know the specific street names, but the actual stories that are then coming up are essentially a load of old cobblers.
In Cheryl's life as Jo, that was quite unusual to see her going back to an area that she actually knows quite well in this lifetime. I haven't actually seen anyone do that. Very rare do you see that kind of thing. So I actually think that shows a sense of truth in the life.
Well, whatever your take on it, Cheryl seems to have had a vivid and intriguing experience of some kind. So there is, of course, that final question. What do you believe? Have you been here before?
Yes. Not necessarily as Joe, but yes, I think I have been here before.
And has your mind changed or your opinion changed at all, or been reinforced by what you've experienced?
No. No, I still don't believe that. I think I was telling you a story then. I wasn't lying. I think I was just telling you a story. So I don't think that I was Joe Kelly, but I do think that I've been here before, yeah.
Well, it was a good tale.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Join us again next time for another chance to explore the possibility that we might all have been here before.